Welcome to the ASUG News Studio. My name is Tom Whalegum. I'm a co-editorial director of asugnews.com. Delighted to have two friends from Hallmark in the studio right now. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have on my right Sheli Blakemore, who is the Senior Supply Chain Optimization Project Manager for Hallmark,
Right.
and Larry Lawson, who is the Supply Chain Optimization Director. Welcome in the studio.
Thank you.
Now,
Thanks.
you both gave a great presentation yesterday on the top lessons learned from your APO rollout.
Right.
Right.
And it's an interesting topic. I mean, we talked on the phone beforehand, and we could have talked for 3 hours about everything and probably not covered it.
Right.
One aspect we want to talk about was the change management. I thought that was kind of a fascinating topic, the way that you approach that. So do you want to start off, really, Shelley, go first and talk just a little bit about what was the initial approach that you kind of wrapped around to make sure that this change management was going to work, people were going to use the software and all that good stuff?
Yeah, it's a good question
Yeah.
because there's no guarantee, right? So we did the best that we could with trying to educate folks on what we were embarking upon and the business solution that we were implementing, because it's not really a technical solution, but people think it's just an IT system.
Right.
So you have to learn what they're doing today and learn how we're bringing in a best practice solution, and then how we can tailor that to our business, and then it's just keeping them in the loop, bringing them in with the requirements gathering, bringing them into all aspects of the project so that they feel a part without actually sitting in the seat of a project team member.
Right.
So there you have.
Well, you're
Something
speaking specifically about change or
Yeah.
change management process. We thought we were pretty structured and very organized around our approach, so that we got into, once the solution was further along, we really understood what the business requirements were. With the business requirements, we were able then to figure out what are the jobs and the tasks associated with that. And then through our org design component, we were able to figure out, okay, how many tasks or how many folks does it take to do those activities? So included in that then was all the training components. We did a lot with conference room pilots. We did a lot with education and communication.
Right.
And so we had a project office organization that we communicated frequently with the different leaders, different user communities on what's about to become forward. What are we about ready to embark upon? So there were some issues though that we didn't quite capture properly, and excuse me, and that was primarily around the issues with the impact of some of the organizational design changes with the people. And so I wish we would have done a better job helping the community to understand this is really what these changes represent. And so it did cause us a small level of chaos when we first initiated the program.
It can be so daunting to be on the IT side of a big project like this, and yet you have to be the ones kind of to show calmness, to show that everything's under control to the user community so they don't get overwhelmed. But
true.
again, you know everything that's going on in the background and trying to make this happen. Top level support for this project as well. I mean, how was that critical to getting this going, and how did you guys secure that to make sure that this was, had a good chance?
Right. Well, we had the owners of the company, or the grandsons of the founder, that were in support of this. So saying this is where we're going, darn near no customization,
Right.
the whole bit. So that we had the support from the top.
Yep.
And then it's getting the layers then underneath on board with it and willing to accept it as well. That's kind of where you get the challenge. I don't know if that's how you see it as well.
This was part of a broader business transformation process. We were really trying to change how we work, try to be more flexible,
Right.
try to be more responsive to retail. So in spirit, and no one can disagree with that, but then once you translate that into here's what this means to me specifically,
Right.
that's where the rub happens.
Right.
So it's trying to help all the users and the leadership understand if this is really what we're trying to be as an organization, here's what we have to do.
Right.
So.
And you run into those that are still unwilling,
Right.
And so they either require extra time or they're just not going to get there, and they'll have to make that choice for themselves, and then, we'll move on from there, whatever
Right.
that may be.
Well, we talked too about the people, process, and technology. Talked a little bit about the people. What about the processes? What kind of change management thinking did you have to put around when processes did change?
Well, we utilized, as far as the change management process, our systems integrator had a very disciplined approach, the project layout, the whole bit. So we followed that part of it. And so with trying to change the current business practices, we had people that were really, really good at their jobs for years. And we were successful in producing the product that we needed. And so it's hard then to dispute those folks that have been so successful. So unfortunately, that was one of our lessons that we learned was that because they were so good at it and they said, this is what I need, and really what they were saying is, this is what I'm doing today, so give this to me for tomorrow. And so we didn't challenge that enough with the processes. So that was an area that we could, in hindsight, we could have done and handled that much differently and challenged their current business practices much more strongly, if you will.
So the nugget of advice for people watching this would be what exactly on your last point?
Well, so for me is really go after your current business practices. If they're not best practice, but it's what you've done over time, then, but it's not best practice because you're implementing a best practice business process solution. It's not, like I said before, it's not a technology, even though people feel like it's just another software product. That's not what it is. But so they've developed best practice within that application. And so if you can't challenge your current business processes and require and insist on change, that's the hard part, is getting the people that aren't intimately involved with the project, but they're running the business. It's getting them to change their mindset to think about things differently. And we'll get to the same end result. We're going through a different path to get there. But that's so difficult because I've been doing it and I'm so good at it. Why can't you just give me what I'm asking? So challenge your current business processes and insist on more best practice. You're not different. Everybody says that, oh, but we're different. But in some cases, yes, but end to end, no. There are a lot of places where you're not different and you could standardize.
So a lot of it was, you mentioned the very little customization that seemed to fall into that, right? That
We unfortunately, because we were not able to decommission a lot of our legacy systems, we were forced into customization. And it was more of interfacing with legacy. Sometimes we had extensions that we had to do just to make it work within our legacy. So we had 300 plus objects outside of SAP to help us. I don't know if you're familiar with RICEFs, the reports, interfaces, conversions, extensions, and forms.
I just learned a new acronym.
Yeah, so that's part of that project layout that the SI brought. But so we had 300 plus of those. So that was how we defined darn near none.
Yes, absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Well, some of that is, though, that we introduced this SAP in waves, in groups, so we didn't do a big bang approach. So we had, because we didn't want to put any of our customers or accounts at risk, so we tried to figure out what's the best approach in terms of what do we want to introduce initially. So we went after an area we thought that would be the least amount of risk to the company. So originally we thought we wanted to do the SD part with interface with the customer, but we want to make sure we get paid, the Hallmark gets paid, and as well as the customer gets the order. So this was all new to us, so we thought we'd back up in the supply chain and go further.
So the third component is the technology. How is the APO software working these days?
These days, great.
How is the what are the benefit? I mean, what are some of the top benefit that you've seen from using it?
Well, so let me back up just a little bit. So we had to do a lot of research for determining what we were going to implement, what pieces did we want to turn on. So we partnered with IT to say, you guys know the infrastructure, you know technology, so we're going to trust you on that. But as far as what we turn on and utilize, that's coming from us. We know what we need it to do. So we spent a lot of time mapping our requirements against APO tools that are in the toolkit now that we've just implemented. And so we spent a lot of time with that to determine where did we want to go. So we're utilizing multiple planning engines. We're utilizing Capable to Match. We're utilizing Production Planning Detailed Scheduling, or PPDS. We're utilizing SMP heuristics. We're utilizing demand planning. We're utilizing ECC's MRP. I mean, we went through, and there were valid business reasons for that, and our IT folks were partnering with us, and they were in lockstep with us along the way. So
That's great.
the technology piece, we've learned a lot. Again, with this is how we think we need it to work, because this is how we've always worked.
Yep.
That after our major implementation, we've had some minor upgrades or improvements, if you will, and that's helped to streamline the APO piece of it much better than what we had initially. So
I think one of the things with these advanced planning tools provided was a level of planning that we've never done before. We were very good at being responsive to a retail request, so a lot of heroics were going on in the organization. So now you have to back up and say, no, we're going to be mindful or thoughtful in what the requirement is and how the supply solution responds to that demand.
Right.
So it was, no, you don't have to call the plant all the time now and get my product in priority ahead of someone else's. So now it's a matter of, we already know what all the inputs are. We're going to let based upon all the criteria we developed in the planning solution, we're going to let the engine help us determine what is the most equitable way to produce the product, considering capacity and lead time and so on. So that the technology has been wonderful at doing that. It wasn't initially, but excuse me, as Sheli was mentioning, we have had some other refinements over the last couple of years that are it's really doing very well right now.
Great.
So.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. It was very interesting, and I hope that some great nuggets that people could have gotten out of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. For more videos, check out asugonline.com as well as asugnews.com, and thank you very much for watching.